The African Joint Continental Strategy for COVID-19 outbreak from the onset expressed fear that since there is no vaccine yet to prevent the infection, nor medication to the cure of the infection, COVID-19 will likely spread rapidly in communities and healthcare facilities and cause severe illness and deaths. The fear indeed came to pass. The case fatality remains on the increase and African population is infected in a rather worrisome trend resulting in deaths. Never mind, remediation and mitigation exploits are on and also paving way, so hope is not lost after all. Swiftly too, the African Union has expressed the urgent need for medical supplies and equipment towards curtailing the coronavirus on the continent. In achieving this, there is in place a Continental Ministerial Coordination Committees on Health, Finance and Transportation to support the comprehensive continental strategy on mitigating COVID-19 in Africa. On the program today, we shall be doing the African Union and COVID-19, a continental perspective. My guest on the program is Dr. Tunji John Asaolu. He is a Nigerian representative at the Third Permanent General Assembly of the African Union Economic, Social and Cultural Council, for short, AU-ECOSOC. Dr. Tunji is also member of the Institute of Public Diplomacy and Management. He is also of the West African Civil Society Institute. The program continues shortly. Stay with us. Let me begin by asking you, where is the AU in all this up until now?
Well, the AU has always been closer to you and also be available at all time. But if I have to answer your question very straight, you know that we allow the member states to exercise their sovereignty to some extent, so that it won't look as if that we are also dictating to a member state, except when it's become necessary that for the AU to also intervene. So we also came out at the right time and at the best time.
Okay, in the last engagements by the AU, and speaking to the world through the AU chairman, it is on record that we have in place what you call maybe a stimulus action, not towards finance it now, but towards working together as a continent in the area of finance, health, and transportation. Where are we with this?
Yeah, you know, when you look at it critically, what you just read out, the Africa Joint Strategy, Continental Strategy for COVID-19 outbreak, you will also know that it's not as if that AU is entertaining fears, or it's not as if that we don't know what to do. You know, when it comes to resources, when it comes to human capital resources, development and all that, they are out there in Africa. We have the capacity, we have the resources, but the fear is, you know, at a time like this, where we are yearning to the development, where we are looking at how the gun could be completely silenced in year 2020, how we are also working towards the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, and then when you now experience what we are experiencing, the situation we are experiencing right now, the COVID-19 outbreak, you now know that it will be a step forward and of course 2 or 3 backwards. So that is just the fear. But it's not about the fear whether we don't know what to do, or whether we don't have the resources, or whether we don't have the capacity. They are all there. For example, now it has come, and you see what we have been doing. I will use Nigeria, especially what is going on in Lagos as an example, for instance, if not because of the human capacity, the way they have also swiped into actions, it will have been more escalated. You will agree with me that within the period that this thing have entered Nigeria, with what they have done, especially in Lagos, the governors of Lagos State, the commissioners of health, Professor Akin Abayomi, you now know within that same period, they'll be able to contain it for not to have been escalated, compared with what has also gone on in other parts of the Western region. When you look at that time frame, where it has entered Italy or Spain, there are a lot of casualties that are also recorded. So it's not about the fear of maybe what to do. Considering the health system that has already be fragile in Nigeria, considering with our population, we know that once this thing enter Africa, there'll be a lot of casualty. I think that's this fear.
Okay, I know you may not be speaking in specific terms. We'll come to Agenda 2063 specifically before we end the program. But let me ask this. There exists an Africa Center for Disease Control. And judging it from the perspective of Uhuru Kenyatta's recent comment on Africa, the need for Africa to solve its problem by itself, what is the Africa Center for Disease Control doing at this time to ward off the issue of African countries thinking about going to China, thinking about going to UN and other places for help?
I think going forward, we are going somewhere, and we are also getting there. That was why I mentioned the Agenda 2063. You also agree with me that aspiration number 6 of that Agenda 2063 also talk about an Africa whose development is people-driven. So we are looking at, between now and the end of that Agenda 2063, Africa will have gained its independence completely, that will be driven by its own citizens, that will be no any need of looking outward or looking for, of course, the China that you also just talked about, or other part of the Western region, before we can also survive. I think we are going there, but it's a gradual process. It's not something that will just happen in one day. But if all things should be equal, and you want to be really sincere with ourselves to make sure that that Agenda 2063 is being implemented, then we must have Africa that is being driven by its own citizen.
Okay, now moving forward, besides the health, finance, and sanitation template being put in place, if I ask you, what kind of stimulus should the African Union activate at this time?
If not because of the intervention of African Union as well too, like I said, the situation will have also be more, escalated to what we are experiencing right now. Immediately like this thing happened, then the African Union come out with the Africa Joint Strategy, Continental Strategy for COVID-19 outbreak, in which is also involved all the ministers of health of all the 55 countries, and of course the NCDC of each country coming together under that Africa CDC. They have laid down the template as it has been given to us by WHO, and I think the roles of Africa CDC is also to make sure that those guidelines is being implemented by member states, and they'll be following up with that strategy, provided that technical expertise, and of course you can also see what we are also the Nigerian government is also keen into that guideline, and we are working towards the implementation of that guideline, and the Director General of NDC is also part of that committee, and I think he's not doing only what he also know what to do. I think he's also working towards the implementations and guidelines of the Africa Joint Continental Strategy for COVID-19 outbreak.
Let me break out from AU and come to the West African sub-region. ECOWAS happens to be one sub-region where the entire member countries are affected, although the number of cases depends on the varies. Let me use the word varies. Are you impressed so far what ECOWAS is doing?
Yeah, I would say yes, because if you don't encourage what is happening, then you cannot get more. So that is why I would say yes. And when you also see what Nigeria is doing, Nigeria is not out of you can't rule Nigeria out within the ECOWAS region, because we are talking about Nigeria, also talking about ECOWAS, and Nigeria's always taking the leadership. And of course, with what they are doing, you can also use it to measure what ECOWAS is also doing. And of course, with how far they have gone, the casualty, like I said, that you also the way that this is spread, if not because of the urgent measure that the African Union, that the ECOWAS have also put in place, it will have been more worse than this. And of course, both of us wouldn't have even be sitting down to even be talking to ourselves, because we all be suspect of each other, be suspecting each other, whether you could have it or I could also have it. But because of the precautive measure that also be put in place, and that is why we are. And I think definitely we'll come out of this.
Okay, let me be specific now. Leadership. Would you say the African leaders and indeed the West African leaders are pushing on, or they look overwhelmed?
When we have to talk about that, I think we we have to also, if we want to be sincere to ourselves, we say that they should step up on their games, because while we're here right now, even before the COVID-19 outbreak, I think the challenges of Africa has always been leadership. Leadership in the sense that what we're supposed to have done that we couldn't do is what is now catching up with us right now. If we have to prepare our house or put our house in order, I think nobody will be entertaining any fears, because though we know that it's involved death, maybe because of that we can also say we also fear, but in a situation whereby we cannot control, we know that to some extent, man mayor will try his own best. But as it is, the fear that we are experiencing right now is the fear of even the outbreak itself, and the fear of how to also get care of himself. And of course, look at the knockdown that we're experiencing. A lot of people could not even endure it. Why? Because what they are going to eat becomes problem. So they are leaders to step up of their game. Why am I saying this? The outbreak itself have also exposed us to some extent, because they now know that we have nothing on ground in terms of health facility. We shouldn't be covering, we can't cover ourselves, we have nothing on ground. So it's also a blessing in disguise to say that I think we will also learn a lesson from this. We will also learn a lesson from this to make sure that we make such facilities available, prepare for a rainy days in case if anything have to happen. I was reading something yesterday, and that the number of lab crews that is being produced yearly, more than half of it's always coming to Africa, and it's a lot of money compared to what at least each one goes more than $60,000. So the money that our leaders spend, who are the people that are also using this? As the government people, because you cannot say those that are in development. Okay, if they are assuming that those in the development circle are also using it, to be less than maybe 30%. So you can say over 70% of it is being patronized by government. So the money that the government put in this, if they are putting it in this kind of facility, I think the fear wouldn't have be must and all that. For example, in every season that we have our parliament, they will do away with those facilities that their predecessors have, and the new one they must order a brand new and all that. So it's like we are making those Western people to get richer, while we ourselves we are now remain the way we are without any development. I think our leader in this case.
So does this in any way send any signals to us globally, continentally, and sub-regionally regarding the fact that there is need for us to rejig a new world order?
Definitely, because like I said, that I hope our leader will learn a lesson from this, because with this outbreak now, it's even making everybody to know who is who. It's like we are now closing our border. Even before now, if the America could even close border with the UK or even with the Czech, the European people, nobody will say anything to it. I was reading something yesterday that the ventilator that I was being under by Spain was hijacked by Turkey's government, because they too they are taking that they may need it. So someone was now saying that at the end of this outbreak, you will now know who are the friends or who are the enemy of this country. So he have changed the perspective of the world order. That is to say, who are your people? So you should also know your people. You should also know your citizens. You should also know when there is a danger, those people that we are looking up to will disown us. So the higher time for us now to start building our own, and our own, considering the development of the continent, to make sure that yes, Africa remains as an Africa. The Agenda 2030 that I talked about, aim the Africa we want. What are the Africans we want? Maybe we are looking at on or before the year 2063, we have the Africa that United States of Africa, when anybody can wake up from Nigeria without even visa and finance or away in South Africa, when anybody can wake up from any part of Africa without any visa, you find yourself in the wherever that you want to find yourself, and you also have the right of doing business, the right of occupancies, and so many other things. Of course, you also agree with me that the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is also there. So these are the things that our leaders should be looking at. How do we implement this so that we can completely gain our freedom, our independence, and still move away from the indirect the colonial era system that we are experiencing right now.
Okay, even within the challenge of COVID-19, if you follow the trend, China said 2020 is the year where poverty will end in China. And they have said that despite COVID-19, they still stand by that deadline. And as we speak, they have done a national memorial for those who lost their life in COVID-19, but they have bounced back, making so much money because of the exploit they made during the attack in them. And a lot of orders now on China for ventilators, for face masks.
Yes,
so they are not even saying we lost so much, but we are gaining so much already. What lessons for other parts of the world, mostly Africa?
Well, if you want to go deep about this, then we'll be talking diplomacy.
It's part of it.
Yeah, we'll be talking diplomacy because initially, I was. Some people did not agree with me when I said that the COVID-19 was as a result of some certain things. The world superpower is changes hand.
Okay.
It changes hand. That is a movie from one geopolitical zone to another. And I think that is what China is aiming to also achieve. A lot of people have criticized the government of Donald Trump, the president of America, that is not favoring to some certain people. And of course, what they can do to cripple that government is to remove power, the superpower that is making him to, exercise that authority and move it to some certain area. And I think that is where the China is now coming in to also occupy, that position. You also agree with him that at the time perhaps he has the great beatings and the rest and all that. So it left to America, and now I will not say categorically that he have left U.S., but that is what the situation that we are right now, and I think that it may likely end in that way. In a situation when this thing started, the America were the one that is always on the net of Chinese people. Oh, announce it, tell the world that your people are dying for this and all that and that. Do you need them? We'll come and help you and all that. And to some extent that the Chinese people have said that they do not need help of anybody to get to a critical level. Now the situations have turned around. Who is not helping who now? It's the Chinese people that is not helping not even American.
That's why I said, what lessons for the rest of the world? What lesson do we learn from that?
The lesson that we should learn from them is
God, these people came out from such a huge, epidemic, and they have started showing videos how to be able to overcome it. And now there are various orders. Countries are falling head over heels on China to produce ventilators and face masks. They are making orders by the day.
The lesson is just to reduce over dependency. To reduce over dependency on the. It's not now. With what we experienced, China did not just start today. Nearly many countries in all over the world that the Chinese people did not have their presence. They have always come into Africa. In fact, they are nearly even everywhere in Africa, giving us. So they knew. They were preparing for the day that is. So we need to also look inward to make sure that we spend our own resources to develop not only our people, but our land. What happened? I saw the factory where they built so massive factory that they put people that are producing masks, and they are supplying it to the rest of even the country. So these are the things, I didn't be assuming that we have more than 1 or 2 or 3 of such factories in Nigeria. We don't need to order.
The factory in Calabar? Which of it?
Yes, in Calabar. Okay. We don't need to order anything from Chinese, from this, from that. But these are the things that our leaders will also look at to make sure that, yes, they develop ourselves and they develop the continent, even as I think the Assembly of Head of State and Government should also come together. Their meetings will go beyond the just AU summit, discussing, taking decisions, and they not look back to see how that decisions is being implemented. I think they also need to take it beyond that meeting to make sure that they follow that decision to the latter, to be sure that Each country, each member state is implementing those decisions. As we speak right now, even the Agenda 2030 we talk about, some of them have even signatory to all those things, but the moment they sign into it, they turn back. They don't know whether it's being implemented or not being implemented. Even what we are doing in Nigeria, I can congratulate even the government of Nigeria to some extent. They are also, taking that leadership, but it's not enough. As I speak right now, in the AU system, I don't think there is any Nigeria that is, since we think about 2-3 years that we have about 1 or 2 directors, and both of them are retired. As I speak right now, we don't even have any directors. We don't have any commissioners, so we don't have even, not to even talk of any other, the chairpersons or whatever, or any of any agencies. So these are the things that we Nigeria too also need to look at. So it's going beyond showing fatherism, showing seniorisms and all that, or you just drop your contributions there, you turn back, you don't know how that contribution is being used to the extent that even you, your own country or your citizens is benefiting from this. I think we need to step up our game.
Okay. From your perspective, let me ask you, what advice will you have for Africans regarding compliance with the lockdown, which is the rave of the movement globally?
The advice that I also give to them is they should also see this as a why. It's not permanently. Like I said, that it's better we are locked down for a period of time than for someone to go to grave, which has going to be for life. So when we have that mentality that, is it not better for me to stay at home for 2 weeks than for me to, have contact this kind of virus and from there someone is gone. So if there is a life, there is a lot of things you can also accomplish. So the advice is to comply. Staying at home, follow the guidelines to also make sure that not only yourself are safe, other people around you are also safe. And again, the government too should also look at the citizen as well, that they are there to serve them. That is not only for them to, it's a privilege. Whatever the position we find ourselves today is a privilege, and it's for also the citizen. Because I normally tell people that the two reasons why we are here today is to serve God and humanity. So they also use the position they find themselves to also serve the citizen. So it's not the time that they take advantage of all. Of course, we have donated a lot of monies. We have a lot of resources. How it's being spent? Let it also be spent so that the citizen can also benefit for what people have also donated on their behalf. So going forward now is we shouldn't be looking at the temporary hospital isolation center. We should also be looking at the permanent center, because we never can tell this. Is a part of human life that such pandemic like this should happen. So this will come and go. And you never can tell that the coronavirus now can never be moved away on the surface of the earth. So it has come and stay, only because that it may find solution to this. So if it happens or any other, pandemic like this happened, so we shouldn't be running extra scatter. So let's also prepare. Our leaders will also look in one and see how we can also prepare for such occurrences in case it also happen.
Okay. If you have an accident for the first time, they say it's an accident. But if you fall on that same spot the second time, they say you remain fallen. If the world is caught napping next time such thing happens, what's your take? If we say we have learned from this, can we ever go through this again? And if we happen like this, should we be overwhelmed as now?
We can't. We can't. The adage that you just used now is only foolish people that you will fall in a spot, and maybe accidentally you are passing that same spot
and you fell there again.
And you fell again. Then it means that you are not. So the person you can call it a food, or you made it a food forever. So I think, like I said, that agenda 2063 is for us to learn from lessons of the past and build on the progress underway to tell us where we are going. So if you are still remaining in that circle, it means that even we are far away from the development. And that is why I'm also advising our leaders right now to make sure that this, if this is happened, then we will not find ourselves in a situation like this, depending on the hate from the Western people. So let's see how we can manage our resources now that is at our disposal to make sure that we build a permanent healthcare system. If I can accommodate with the same number of the citizens, they have the populations of the citizens, for God's sake. So whatever they are planning, let's have it in mind of the populations of the citizens that they also have. I think from there we are good to go. So I don't think with this kind of currencies that will be the victim of it the next time whenever this happens.
Dr. Tunji Asaolu, it was nice having you on the program.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's it on Diplomatic Ties at this time. We looked at the African Union and COVID-19, and after all, the guest says, hope is not lost. Thanks for watching.